ModSquad, featuring Ian Schnoor, Executive Director of Financial Modeling Institute, Giles Male, humble MVP and co-founder of Full Stack Modeler, and Paul Barnhurst, the FP&A guy.
We're going to be testing a tool called Elkar today.
The formula that it has derived is, I would say, the perfect, simplest formula, one that is transferable to a person, that is dynamic and modular.
I think this is quite nice. The only one we haven't really seen give this much feedback. That was probably the quickest I've seen.
There are some white values, there are some hidden white values, there are some inconsistent formulas here, right? There are some hard-coded values, and I already like it says, I'll check. So this is a very confident AI tool, which I love.
That's pretty close to AGI, isn't it?
If you ask the tool the same question multiple times, you might get different response. There are some real meaningful errors, and I think it's important to see what these errors are and how it did not understand what a model means.
Welcome to another episode of the ModSquad, a series on AI tools where we test them so you don't have to, featuring Ian Schnoor, Giles Male, and yours truly, Paul Barnhurst. This week, I want to let you know that I will not be on the episode. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it, and so Giles and Ian were kind enough to record an episode without me on Elkar. So we'll go ahead and roll that here in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know so you weren't surprised why I'm not on my own show. I think it's great that I have two co-hosts that can cover for me. Super excited for you to get to listen to this episode. I think it'll be a real treat to hear voices other than my own. So we're going to go ahead and roll that. But again, this week, you won't have to listen to me. So enjoy it. I will be back next week. Thank you for being a loyal listener. And please, if you have a tool we should test, an idea for an episode, you want to come on the show, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, the audience. You can reach me at pbarnhurst@thefpnaguy.com. All right, we're going to go ahead and roll this episode of the ModSquad. Thanks again. Bye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the ModSquad with me, Giles Male, and I'm joined by just one special guest this time. Ian, where's our third musketeer?
He had an appointment where I was not at the last one, and Paul can't join us today, so we're going to take over his hosting duties. It's not going to be the same without him. I bet it was more joyful without me, but it will be less joyful without Paul, that's for sure. So we'll do our best to make him proud.
We'll do our best. I mean, he's actually left us in control of a recording that will be going on his YouTube channel, his podcast channel. He knows how much I like to swear on recordings.
Possibly one of the least intelligent, riskiest things he's done in his career. But
it's all right, Paul. You can trust us. You can trust us. All right. So I think we're going to be testing a tool called Elkar today. Before we do that, I'll act as host for you. Where's your head at? We've obviously gone through quite a few rounds now. We've looked at Agent. We've looked at a fair few tools. What's your kind of general sense of where we're at in this series?
Well, I mean, it feels like we've, I hate to use the word plateau, but it feels like we're hitting a bit of a consistency, right? We're continuously impressed with what the tools are doing. We'll see if today's any different. I mean, overall, their performance has been, would you agree? Like on some of the tests you've been putting at it, more similar than not. There are various degrees of able to get some of the questions done that you're providing into it and the e-challenges. In modeling, in building a full model, they have not been great to date at building from scratch, would you say? And we'll test this one. So I feel like we may have hit sort of a common, consistent spot where we're at a bit of a hump and see if we can get over that. What do you think?
Yeah, probably the same. I mean, obviously, you missed the excitement of testing Shortcut in the last episode, which was interesting because I agree. I think it's there or thereabouts. It's probably towards the better end of the third-party tools. Didn't live up to its crazy claims, but I think Tab AI has probably been one of the most impressive. Did some really great things, but wasn't perfect. Agent has done the best so far from a sort of financial modeling perspective, I think. But again, I don't think any of us would say perfect or ready to rely upon, in completeness. Yeah, I agree. I think coming into this episode, I was a bit like, I feel like we kind of know what we're going to get there or thereabouts. So I wonder whether that's going to change.
And I've been on the road for the last couple of weeks, which is why I missed you the last time, and talking to a lot of modelers, traveling throughout the US and in London last week. And there seems to be a consistent feeling that's aligned with our own views, that nobody's ready to have a tool, build a model from scratch, have it done, package it up, send it in. People are looking forward to using it as a collaborator, as a partner, to help find errors, to help with the design process, to help improve models and get ideas. I don't think anyone's expecting or looking for a magic button to push to get your model and saves you all that time and energy. Everyone wants to understand what they're doing. So that is
what I would say. I am hearing more and more stories of people and teams leveraging Copilot, mainly Copilot, I'm hearing, and getting some value from it. So
sure.
Certainly not getting it to build models, but getting it to help look at data or to answer a query about, how do I do this in M code? How do I do this in VBA? So I'm hearing more of those stories, and that's a testament to the progress of Copilot, I guess.
Yeah. And I think we're hoping that in the modeling world, we'll be able to say, use these tools to give me a suggestion. And is there a better way I can think about modeling revenue? And do you have any ideas on what I can do with this depreciation calculation? And can you help me out with an idea? Right? I think we would love to see the same on the modeling side as well.
All right, good. I think we're still aligned, which is good. So should we have a look at Elkar? We'll bring up the website first, and we'll just have a scan through. So this is Elkar's website. I'll hand it over to you again, Ian. Anything that sort of jumps out at you as I scroll down here?
No, I mean, again, I'm feeling like there's a consistency in the websites. I don't know if you would agree. Different colors, but they all tend to have a similar look and feel. I'm looking at it now with some, animations to them, some screenshots. They're clean, they're simple, so I like them. You think it, Elkar? They all have a tagline and a logo. Theirs is what you think it. Elkar builds it. Their pricing plans seem to be in. Would you want to talk about that in line with what we're seeing?
I think so. So 40, and again, like I'm just not clued in enough to know when it says $40 and 250 requests a month. Like, exactly what does that mean? Is that 250 prompts? It might be something slightly different. If you planning to use this heavily, maybe you'd start to step into the $200 a month territory. And once you're there,
that's a lot.
It is a lot, isn't it? When you can get Claude Pro or ChatGPT Pro subscriptions for $20, $30. So it is a lot of money.
What does it say there? If you go down, it says under the pricing for Max. So I have a feeling you're right. I mean, you could probably fly through 250 requests pretty quickly. I mean, it's not if you're working intensely in a spreadsheet, it's not hard to imagine going through 10, 20, if that truly means each individual prompt is a request, then you could go through 20, 30, 40, 50 a day, I would think, pretty quickly.
I agree.
If you're working on something, iterating through it. So the Max plan says 50, so everything, unlimited requests, but 50 monthly requests in Agent Max mode. So I don't know what that means either. Does that mean that the best tool, Agent, which is powered by Opus, in the best tool, you still only get 50 requests per month? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because this gets to the conversation that comes up a lot in sort of MVP circles, is like, what about the cost of all of this prompting? And I guess there is a significant cost behind the scenes for these companies as well. So I assume you're right. It's probably to link to the most powerful tools in the back end, and you have to limit them.
So you're saying you're talking about the cost incurred by these third-party add-ins, because of course, as you put in a request, they're submitting a request to some sort of the LLM.
I think that would be my guess as to how it all works. So yeah, I guess $200 a month. You could probably start to eat through that if you're looking at 50 requests in your kind of high-powered mode a month. I don't really know. This is the interesting thing, isn't it? We don't know.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
Anyway, it looks good. Let's see how it adds in. You want to look at the features, right? I mean,
what I did. This is quite interesting. So they've got a bunch of videos here. They do actually have one for the Microsoft Excel World Championship. So this is going to take me to their YouTube. They obviously have an example of the Microsoft Excel World Championship case of some sort being solved.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm not the first person to try this with Elkar. They've done it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see how it performs.
So I think let's get stuck in then. We don't have Paul, so we're probably not going to do his test cases. We'll do mine and yours, and we'll see how it gets on. So I will start with the same one I have started with for every tool, which is the easier Excel Esports battle case. So let me bring it up on screen. We'll just have a look at what we get in the Elkar kind of user interface, and then we'll get going from there. So it is another kind of additional button on my home ribbon. I had a whole stack of these. I had to start deleting them because I had about 7 third-party tools in there.
Yes, as do I. So you just
started
removing them.
All right, so Elkar, and for anyone watching this as the first episode, this is an Excel Esports case. You have some bonus questions, and then you have 7 levels typically where you're given a problem to solve, and then you have to fill in the answers in these green cells. So they get harder through the levels. This one is saying essentially pick the number of characters from the left from this word. So if you look at the example, 3 from filtro would be FIL. So we're looking for formulas to be created by the tool, like left with the number of characters. We want it to link to these cells ideally, and it gets harder and harder. So
ideally, one thing that we've learned in this process is I think I would say ideally we want it to build a solution that is one that could be transferred to a person to use and to copy, right, and to automate. And what we've discovered with some of the other tools is that they are, of course, lightning fast, but building tools that are incompatible with the way a person would work. Like they might drop in a dozen hard-coded values in a formula. Now it's okay. It can do that because it can do it instantly, but that doesn't leave it dynamic and modular and able to be copied, right? So I think we'd love to see it. And we might need to change the prompts then to see, well, let's see what it does. Let's just put the exact same prompts as before and see what it does.
Hit enter. So we just get it to do level 1 first, just to see if it's got the right kind of sense of what we're doing. So we're already getting some feedback. I'll analyze the case tab. Perfect. I can see the structure. Level 1 is about. So again, I think this is quite nice. The only one we haven't really seen give this much feedback. Oh, wow, it's done. That was quick.
Wow.
That was probably the quickest I've seen.
So you asked it. I'm sorry. You asked it just to do level 1?
I asked it just to do level 1, but it has done level 1. That was very
well. I love
quick.
that. And so, first of all, what I like is it gave you. Can you scroll up for a second and show everyone? Go up above. It said, where did it stop? Right. I need to create I need to create formulas using left function into it's explaining there what it understands it needs to. That's great. Not all the tools were doing that, were they?
That's what I was saying before I got shocked by its speed. I think Agent was probably the lowest in that kind of measure of you couldn't really see what it was thinking.
Yeah.
Continue. So let's do continue with the remaining levels.
And the formula that it has derived is I would say the perfect simplest formula. Also is transferable, right, to a person. That is dynamic and modular, and it works. Let's see what it does for some of the more complex.
So I'll hit pause just because we don't know. It might take a minute. It might take 4 or 5, but I'll hit pause.
Absolutely. Oh, look at wow!
I won't hit pause.
You might not need to, Giles. This is fast. Let's see here.
Oh wow! Okay. So
but again, I'm.
Now
help me out.
Through.
It's flying through. Which question is it on? That's impressive. The speed.
Okay,
wow.
It's finished.
Wow. Is it? I know we haven't been timing. That's fast, right? That was fast. That was.
I didn't have time to hit pause. Okay.
You did.
So there's a few things we obviously have to check. Annoyingly, I should have fixed this ages ago, but I've got one where I don't have the green ticks available. So let me just pull up the answers on a different screen, and I will just do a quick sense check to make sure it's got the right answers, because obviously that would be nice. Yes. So right answers.
Looking good. Looking at good.
Now 100% so far. Yeah.
And let's see. I'm looking as you evaluate them to see the caliber and the quality of the answers. So again, this one, I'm looking to see if there's
100%. I have to say that is by far and away the fastest we've seen. Now, if it was just about speed, it's 1. Let's have a look at what it did. Okay.
So, you're familiar with these. It's put in some dead numbers. Is that fine? I'm not sure exactly. It's repeating.
I genuinely have absolutely no idea why it's turned to the rept function and it's repeating that 100 times.
Right. It's repeating this, and it is, and it's
I don't know what it's doing.
bro. Look what it's done though. This is what we're. This is not likely. It's certainly not likely the simplest way to solve it, and it's using. This is what I, also keep talking about. Is I think that people's skills are going to have to increase just to understand what it's doing. This is a very unconventional. Would you agree? It's using an indirect. If you look where your cursor is, it's using an indirect to populate a row function. Now, a row function simply says, Excel's row function simply says, click on a cell reference, and it tells you the row number. Well, what it's doing is it's using an indirect with a range from 1 to 10. You want to highlight that in quotation marks. I'm not quite sure what that's doing in quotation marks. I'd have to test it, and you're the one looking at it. And then it's embedding that into the row function. So
I have no idea what it's doing. I'll be honest. I have no idea what that part is doing.
And you can see it's got a little array with those squiggly brackets, 1, 2 at the end. Would you see that at the very end of the formula?
Yeah. That's
so that's all part of the sum product, right? It's all part. This would be, I think it's safe to say,
that's just
this
crazy.
would be a hard formula for most Excel users.
Okay, that would just, I don't know why it's turning to that, but hey, it got the right answers in a really, really weird way. Level
But again,
3.
here's the thing. For those watching, you know that it got the right answer because you know what the right answer is, right?
Yeah.
Just a cautionary warning. If you were asking it to solve a problem like this and you did not know what the right answer was, which more simulates reality, right? In real life, you have a data problem. You say, can you solve it for me? You're not sure the right answer. If this is what you got, you're going to have to really kick up your Excel skills pretty significantly to be able to interpret and understand that, to make sure that it's actually doing it right and doing it right consistently. So that's pretty amazing.
Level 3, fine. So it's used indirect and column, that's fine. Okay, so it's done the job okay there. Level 4, again, good. Len minus len substitute. It's using the cell references, which is great. I know 1 or 2.
That feels like the way most people would solve it. In a challenge, right? That makes sense. Good luck with that one, Giles.
Why is it? I tell you, it's so interesting that different tools that have sort of preferred approaches. Yet again, it has gone for rept and blank and 100. I can't get my head around why it's adding 100
It's
times.
repeating it
of the
100 times.
blank.
Like why? Yeah, I don't know why it's maybe because that is again significantly longer than what the total numeric chain is within any of them. I'm not sure. Again, I'd have to kind of go back and dissect it.
You might have a point there, because if you did do mid, and then if that was the second part of the mid, do you know what? I don't know.
I just love if you start from the beginning. I just love, for those who really want to elevate their Excel, you've got a substitute embedded within the mid, embedded within a trim, embedded within a value, embedded within a sum product.
But then just a bunch of hard-coded numbers as well. 100 minus 99. I genuinely have no idea what that's doing.
So for those of you who've ever had your manager say, what the heck is that formula doing? Be prepared.
Yeah. So level 6, good. Indirect on the map and the reference there. That's good. And then level 7, if it
actually
uses
looks a little more reasonable.
rept
That's
function again.
That seems that for anyone,
fine.
for any good Excel
-1,
user,
+1
that's
is
not going to
fine.
be hard to figure that out when it's not a.
Okay, so I think that is
impressive.
I mean, that was really impressive. I have to say.
Well, we didn't have to push pause. We didn't.
And
I think it's safe to say, right? I mean, people would have 30 minutes. Is that right, to solve all of those? And most people would not get right. Sorry.
Well, for that easier case, so I think that's a case where the top pros would be finishing fast. They'd be doing that in 10 minutes, maybe less. But that did it in 2 minutes?
Maybe less, maybe
So
less
that
than
was,
that, maybe 1. But and that's
crazy.
the very top pros that have practiced would get it in 10 minutes. There are plenty of people that would not finish that in half an hour. I'm very confident, right? In of that one.
Yeah, I think so. Because some people just wouldn't know the functions to use. So let's really test this tool.
Sure.
Let's go to my case.
Well, let's buckle up here because it did the first one in a minute. So let's see how it does on.
If it does this as well, I have to say,
and then we'll test it on whether it can actually build a model. But let's see what it does on this one. This is
okay. I'll tell you what, for this one, because I've asked it to do all 7 levels, I'm going to hit pause. I can't imagine it's going to do it in 30 seconds. All right, we're back. This is probably the funniest thing I think we've seen any tool do. So as we were going through, I noticed that it was putting the answers in the column here. And in these cases, this is where you get this really nice green tick. You see on level 2, it actually put the answers in this column and overwrote the green ticks. So I moved it over, and I also unhid the answers sheet, which has the answers, but you hide it in the background. And I thought this was doing really well. And then when you look at the later levels, it's spotted that there's a sheet called answers, and it's just linking to the answer.
This is the most clever AI tool that we've looked at today.
That's pretty close to AGI, isn't it? That's exactly what a naughty human would do.
We didn't realize you had an answer sheet, and it just said, heck, I'm not going to hurt myself. Let me just link directly to the answer.
That is absolutely
Does it make
brilliant.
sense? Does it make sense to pause again and go back and say, hey, can you solve it yourself without checking the answer sheet? I mean, you could, but from the ones that it did solve, it looks like it's done quite well. Is that right?
I think it cheated for most of them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm saying you can't use the answer sheet.
Like scolding a small child,
You're
right?
absolutely right. I apologize for taking that shortcut.
See? AI can be fun. Look,
Brilliant.
we're joking around with the AI tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should repause. We'll give it another go. If it cheats again, we're expelling it. It's done.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, we are back. That was a good 15, 16 minutes. It struggled a bit. So again, Ian, I find it really interesting because this one, so we had the little cheating episode, which we've forgiven it for, but it also just seemed to be struggling with putting things in the right place. So it kind of got there. What did it do? It got level 2 correct. That's fine. Level 3, a couple correct, but again, not exactly a full set of green ticks. Level 4, it eventually got correct apart from 1, and actually that looks correct in terms of some of these kind of characteristics for the coats were doubled, some of them were zeroed out. So up until that point, I think it did well. Level 5, it just put the same calculation across all the levels, which was wrong. Level 6, again, that's wrong. And then again, I'm not giving it this because I think it's still trying to cheat. It's just hard coded almost the right answers.
You're looking for it to, it's doing something that it can do as a computer, but it's not a sort of called a human solution. Is that what you mean?
Well, I also mean that I'm not sure I totally trust it after our little pulling the answers from the answer sheet escapade. I think it might just be looking at the answers and hard coding them in a formula. So I don't know. So this is a harder case. We knew it. I almost got the sense if this was a human analyst, after the speed of the first case, I almost feel like I would be saying to this human, just slow down a bit. Just take your time. You don't need to rush this much. Like, it's more important that you get the right solution and you think through the logic than you win this race.
Well, the other thing too is we all know from any Excel work we've ever done that Excel problems and challenges tend to elevate in complexity, which is what's realistic about the esports challenges. I mean, in life, often the first things you have to do in any spreadsheet are just add up a column of numbers and then, and then do some additional more complex calculations and eventually build in lookups and other, it elevates. And what we're seeing is these tools are good at doing the very easy and then medium complexity task. And as you get into more and more complexity, they hit a bit of a wall. And this one has as well, it appears, right?
I think so, but it also feels like it's just like it's had a little malfunction in ways that are quite unique. We said put the answers in column E, it stuck them all in column F. And we've seen bits like that on a few tools. There's a very similar characteristic where, I remember one of the tools for the financial modeling challenge that you set, it tried to do the balance sheet check, but one of the line items was pointing to the row above the total assets calculation. You're like, okay, well, that's just linking to the wrong thing. So yeah, I think it's done okay in a very, very hard challenge. Should we do my other one? Should we do my other one quickly and then we'll move on to yours?
Yeah, what was your other one?
My other one is the trial balance. So I'll tell you what, why don't we come back to that? Should we I get bored of my own voice. You wouldn't believe it.
All right. Well, then let's
skip
move on.
over to you.
Sure. Why don't we do that? Should we warm it up with some, with doing some checks and some testing and looking at a model again? Why don't we do that? And then I really want to make sure we have time to see what it will do. I have not, full disclosure, I have not asked this tool to build anything from scratch yet. So this is going to be a real-time surprise for both of us when we see what it can do. So let's go here, first of all. And I assume that you've got my screen up now. Is that correct? So you do. And let's start with, and so here is the Elkar tool. I'll load that one up. You can see I've got lots of them here. And admittedly, it took a little bit of time to get this one working. Sometimes tools take a little bit of effort to get them loaded up, doesn't it? This one, some people might not have had the patience, but we did get it working, right? And it is working now. So it confirmed that it does work. It's asking me to upgrade. I have a week still. I'll just get rid of this. So let's try some. Again, I have a financial model here. And it's built, as you know, the balance sheet is not balanced. The balance sheet is out of balance on purpose, and it did not watch me. So I'm curious to see how it solves that. There are some white values. There are some hidden white values. There are some inconsistent formulas here, right? There are some hard-coded values. There's some other stuff. Let's see. There are some hidden sheets. Let's start to see, number one, are there any hidden sheets in this file? I think it's going to solve these fairly quickly based on the performance. And what I really like, it says, I'll check. And it says, wow, look at that.
It's quick.
Yes, there are two. So this is a very confident AI tool, which I love, right? Like it works fast. And when it gets the answer, it says, yes, it's got it. So there are two hidden sheets, covert and clandestine, done easy. What about this? Let's see if there are any, let's ask it if there are any white values on this sheet. And it says, are there any white values? I'll check for text values on the model sheet by examining the formatting. So it understands that it's going to check the formatting of all cells. And let me try a different approach. It's doing something. I'm not sure what it's doing. It's trying a few times. It's looking for, okay, well, look at this. This is interesting, Giles. It says no white text found on the model sheet. The font color check did not detect any cells with white text in the sampled range, which was B1 to U50. Now U50 goes way out here. However,
you do
check it out.
Yeah, interesting. So we just got that wrong.
I can see there's some numbers here. These cells were white, and again, I'm not sure why. There are absolutely white cells here. You can see they're white. So it missed that. I'm not sure exactly what it was doing. But obviously needed to be careful about that. But it clearly understood what I asked, right?
I think that's what's even more interesting. It very much understood the question and then still didn't spot what was there, which is, yeah.
Well, what about this? Are there any inconsistent formulas on the sheet? That's a key one. Are there any inconsistent formulas? And I know I'll check. I'll check for inconsistent formulas on the model sheet by examining formulas across similar rows and columns. I like that. It's scanning the model for inconsistent formulas, and it says, yes, this is great. This is fast. This is great. Yes, there are 13 columns with inconsistencies. The main issues are column B. Not as worried about column B because column B is sort of just a helper column, a text column. Not as worried about that. Column C to O, it recognizes some things now. That's interesting. And again, this is something we're finding as well, right? And I forget how people refer to this issue. I'm drawing a blank right now. I should have the word, but the issue being that if you ask the tool the same question multiple times, you might get different responses. Because I tried this one earlier, and it did identify that row 13, as an example, was a row that had an inconsistent formula. This one is different than the prior one. It knew that, but this time I asked it the exact same question as I did, an hour ago. And are there any inconsistent formulas on the sheet? It's saying yes. Last time it actually showed me the rows that were problematic. This time it's not. So that makes me uncomfortable generally with AI tools as well that we've seen. Is I always wonder, okay, it's got it, but will it always get that? And how many times do I have to try running it let's try again. Let's just literally run it again. Are there any inconsistent form? I'm literally deliberately not changing it because I know that same prompt gave me a different request last time. So, does it learn from itself? Is it going to do the exact same thing? It's checking for actual errors. Wow. Now it says suspicious patterns detected. The formulas on this sheet appear to be valid, even though there were multiple formula patterns. So this is concerning. So not only did it still not pick up the answer, but now it's telling me that there are no formula errors or suspicious patterns, and we know that there are. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try it one more time.
It's interesting though, isn't it?
I'm not telling it that I think it made a mistake. I will do that next time. How about that? The next time I'll say, I think you're missing something, because I just want to see what happens if it runs it over and over again with the exact same prompt. Now, because if you ran it for most people, I think, right, Giles, if you ran it once and you got this, you'd be like, great, that's awesome, right? No inconsistent formulas. And then your boss would discover it at midnight.
Well, exactly. This is where my head's at with my kind of worries at the moment with this stuff is if I used a tool like Oak, which I've used for 15 years, I'd pull up the model map from Oak. I'd be able to scan the inconsistencies visually in about 5 minutes myself across a huge model, and I'd be right.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. You don't need AI to do any of these model checks, but it would be nice to know that it could do it for you. Here now, for the third time, it's giving me a third different response. Yes, there are 8 columns with significant formula inconsistencies. Again, strange, because just 1 minute ago, it said that there were no formulas or errors or suspicious patterns detected, right? And now
it's looking at it at the wrong axis. It's going vertically and saying, within a column there's differences, which is weird.
And now let me try and challenge it. I'm gonna go off script here. Are you sure? Row 13 has a cell with hard-coded values. Are there other rows with formulas like that? Okay. I think they don't like to be challenged. Are you sure? But let's see. I'm asking it if it is sure. It's, are you sure? Row 13. We know row 13 has a cell with a hard-coded value in it. Are there any other rows with formula? Let me check for hard-coded values in formulas across the sheet. So it's trying. Yeah, okay. It's very proud of itself. It's found it in M13. Well, I did give it a hint. That's true. It's true with a hard-coded value. Let me search for others. Okay. So it is. Obviously, I'm being a little bit difficult with it, but this is the kind of thing I would hope. I don't remember off the top of my head if there are others. Well, look here, right here in O13 is another value with a number 5 at the end. I don't think it's pointed out that O13, did it find oath? I don't think it did, right? No. So I'm not sure how well I'm going to sleep at night if I know that this is the caliber of the checking for hard-coded values, but anyway, it was good to see that. Why don't we try moving on to the next one? How are you feeling about this one, Giles? I'm going to ask it why the balance sheet's not balancing. Are you feeling comfortable about this one, or are you a little more nervous about this one?
Mixed. Again, I feel like you talked about this plateau that we've reached. It's kind of aligned to what we're seeing. I think it's done some good things. It's done some really bad things, and that's like
this is a hard question. Exactly. And I don't know. Listen, there are not many modelers out there in the grand scheme of things who could look at an unbalanced balance sheet and very, very quickly, instantly determine. You have to think through a lot of things and understand a lot of system integrations to understand where to look and why a balance sheet might be out of balance. You have to understand a lot about accounting. So, but let's see. Let's try. Why doesn't the balance sheet balance? Let's populate that one. It's a simple ask. It's a simple ask for a difficult problem, right? Because of course there could be 20 or 30 reasons, like not only, right, and again, the balance sheet's out of balance, and just as a reminder, so I fully acknowledge this is hard because my error is in the working capital schedule. And by the way, the change in working capital here, it's not that it's wrong. The change in working capital, like this actually is the change in working capital. The change in working capital went from 56 down to 49, and so it dropped. The change in working capital dropped from 56 to 49. It went down 6.9. So technically, that's not the wrong answer. However, any financial modeler knows that when you're talking about change in working capital, the way a set of accounting statements prepares it, this is referring to the change in cash as a result of the working capital changes. So for a financial model, we all need to know that you have to change the sign. I don't care about the actual change in the working capital. I care about the cash implication as a result of that change, which means that I have to subtract it the other way, last year minus this year. It's got to be positive. Now, I'm just talking as it works through it.
Yeah, I think it's done.
So the balance sheet doesn't balance sheet. I'm just seeing the balance sheet doesn't balance because of discrepancies in the projected years. Look, okay, thank you. So it knows in row 188, it realizes here that looking at the projected years in row 188, it knows balance. Okay, so it has identified it.
It's a variance.
The root cause, well, it says the root cause is the hard-coded value in M13 and M14. The hard-coded value artificially inflates the net sales price, which cascades. Is using big words like cascades, right? And it sounds intelligent, very intelligent, right? But the reality is, any good modeler knows that you can hard-code revenues till the cows come home. That has nothing to do with an unbalanced balance sheet. It would just, if the model was working properly, it would lead to inflated revenues and inflated revenues, which would mean higher cash and higher retained earnings on the balance sheet, right? That should have no impact on an unbalanced balance sheet.
I just think it doesn't know, and I think it's pointed to the thing that you referenced earlier, because you mentioned specifically that there was a hard-coded number of 50 something. I think it's just almost just gone there because it's the most logical guess to go to. Because
I mean, let's just prove to, of course, I mean, again, a modeler understands that, there are many mistakes in models that lead to an unbalanced balance sheet. There are even more mistakes in models that have nothing to do with the balance sheet and will not lead to a balance sheet being out of balance, right? I mean, I'll copy this across. This is correct. I'll Control R and copy this over, and my revenues, we're still going to stay, significantly out of balance. And just even to prove it, I can triple the revenues. If the balance sheet's working properly, it will just lead to higher, because of course that makes no sense. If you double count revenues and you're going to have higher revenues, higher net income, higher cash, and higher retained earnings. As long as it's built properly, the balance sheet should stay in balance.
Yeah, so I think it's got that wrong. I don't think it knows. I appreciate it's a hard question.
Are you sure? Let me see. Are you sure? Don't you think, maybe let's see if we can, don't you think the real error might have something to do with the working capital calculations? Are you sure? I like, you're right. I love it. You see that? It says you're right.
But again, to me, if I was to put this in like a human avatar, I just imagine this like really hyper teen, like, late teens, early 20s person that's really clever. And it's like, just slow down.
Well, look at that. Now it's massaging my ego here. It tells me I'm right. And then it tells me, excellent catch. Thank you. But hang on. Aren't you supposed to be the one doing the catching? The IT tool, right? I feel like my AI tool is supposed to be doing the catching.
It's got it wrong.
But anyway, now it tells me I found, but it does think it found the real issue. The problem is in the working capital calculation. Look at the formulas, K260 to K265. So it says accounts receivable, use cost of goods sold to calculate, which is fine, which is normal convention. But
surely, if it's got accounts receivable, would be linked to revenue, wouldn't it? And accounts payable.
This is all fine. And then this inconsistency creates a mismatch. The historical years days are calculated as about right. Well, it's sending me down. It's sending me down a a bit of an incorrect path here. It's sending me down chasing something that's not right. I mean, this is all fine. The days are calculated as the historical, and this is a correct formula for days, and the projected years balances. It is normal to calculate. Let me show you. Okay, so it says that the working capital balances should be calculated using revenue, not cost of goods sold, to maintain consistency with how the historical balances. This is causing the change in working capital to be incorrect. I really am allergic. I'm very, very hesitant, and it causes me a lot of, I don't know, this causes me a lot of unhappiness when it overconfidently tells me that, yes, it found an answer, which is not right, right? So this overconfidence when you're wrong. So it's pointing out that look, standard convention dictates that most people use the standard convention of calculating receivables off of revenues. And you can see here in the future, we've calculated the receivable balance by using net revenue because accounts receivable are most closely aligned to revenue, and everything else is typically related to cost of goods sold. That is standard industry convention. You'll notice that historical days also we use cost of goods sold. It doesn't need to be. This is just standard convention. You don't need to, but also it has incorrectly said that this inconsistency is what causes a mismatch. That's not true, right? I could calculate the historical days off of cost of goods sold instead of off of revenue, and I'd get different numbers. It's not that's not standard convention, but it would work.
Yeah, exactly.
It would do the answer.
It
wouldn't matter. It would
accurate, but it would still work and
Right.
give you a result and not create an
Exactly. Like, let's prove it, right? Let's prove it. And again, I will move on. But again, it is really worrisome that it will take people without knowledge down. So let's just show again the change in working capital. I have current minus the past year. That is the change in working capital. But what I need is the reflection on cash. So I either have to flip the sign here on the change in working capital, or I can keep it that way and on the cash flow statement, flip it. My preference would be to flip it right here. So I am going to take last year minus the current year, and that should get me to flip the balances. That now the working capital has gone down, but the cash has gone up because it means that we've sold off some working capital and put that cash into our bank. And of course, now the balance sheet, of course, should be balanced. But it makes me very uncomfortable that on two occasions it suggested, a course of action that's just not correct. And a modeler has to understand that, or it's going to be a lot of painful nights. Let's try this. Let's go now and use up some of our additional time. I'm curious to see what it does. This one we might need to
we're going to pause, right?
We might need to do a pause. Let's try this one here, and let's go back into this tool.
So this is the one you're going to ask it to build a full-on forecast, right?
Exactly. I am just going to say, let's see what it does. Again, build a 5-year forecast model on the model sheet for the years 2025 to 2029. Build separate schedules for revenues, costs, depreciation, income tax, working capital, debt, and equity. Make reasonable assumptions. And I think that's a fair ask, just to make some reasonable assumptions. We saw some tools did okay, and most are not doing that great. There's a lot to understand, but let's just click enter. I do not expect it will be able to generate a response instantly. So let's just see what it says and then take a pause. I'll help you build a comprehensive. And then what I'd love to do, because I think we still have a few minutes, is we'll come back to the other one and we'll see if it can do evaluation. This is for the first time. Let's try and get a bit of evaluation going. But interestingly, look at this though. Do you see what's happening?
He's doing
Maybe we should actually keep this going, because unlike the other ones, it's actually building as it goes, right? Like, look at this. It's doing things and formatting them. Look at that. It's building something and formatting. The revenue is okay. Well, look what it's doing here. Wow. I mean, this is impressive in speed, but again, this is the teenager that you want to scold, right? Because it's what it's doing for revenue is, and again, I said make reasonable assumptions, totally fine. So I'm okay with that. But I also asked it to build a separate schedule for revenues, cost. And in this case, It is just applied it didn't, so it made an assumption for 5%, but it's not, what it could have done very simply is just made one row above at the top that says, revenue growth, 5%. I mean, I would hope it knew that it's not ideal to type in a dead number like this right in, but okay, it did it. I mean, I guess I could modify that later. What did it do?
The numbers look broadly reasonable. I mean, albeit the interest expense has dropped a lot. It'd be interesting to see what it's done with the
look what it's in though. Cost of goods sold, it's growing at 4%. So most modelers would understand and appreciate that there needs to be some connectivity between the cost of goods sold and the revenue, right? In this case, it's literally just growing cost of goods sold. I mean, I sometimes joke when I used to teach a lot of modeling that anyone could build a model in literally 5 minutes. You can build a model of any company for 5 minutes. If you literally take the last year's numbers and apply growth rates to everything, then you've got a model. It doesn't mean that it's a good model or that it's actually reasonable, but in theory, you've got a forecast.
That's always
that has been your bugbear about
just with the hype, the big statements of it can build a model in 10 minutes. It's like, yeah, but what's the model? What is it useful? Can anybody get value from it?
Right. And remember, we always talk about the fact that a good model has got to tell a story. It's got to get you smart so that I can come back to my boss and my client and my partners and say, this is a really smart forecast. Well, they're going to very quickly realize all I did is I grew revenue at 5%. I grew the cost at 4%. I grew SG&A at 3%. Even depreciation is just growing at 2%. I mean, interest is growing at 7%. Oh, no, it is I'm sorry. It's not growing interest. It's taking, oh, look what it did though. You're going to love this, right?
No. So it's hard coding the principal repayments period by period.
It's hard coding. No, it's hard coding the debt amount. I believe it's debt
that's
amount.
What I mean though. It's like
175. It took a debt amount of 175, which it found. Well, it's the end of the same year. It's taken. It's got a balance sheet. We're going to quickly see if this balances, Giles. We didn't even have to pause. This is impressive. So the speed is impressive. It's taken. But instead of linking to the end of the balance sheet, it typed in a dead number. It's applying 7%. Okay, I mean that's not crazy. And it's got an interest expense. What did it do for taxes? Look at that. It built a little if statement. If
21% tax.
This is still very, very impressive, right? And I'm sure I could modify it. It says if the net income, if earnings is greater than 0, then apply a tax rate of 21%. I bet I could ask it to just take out the hard values and put them in as assumptions, but we could try that. The net income. So it's done this. Let's see here. It's good. Now let me continue. I wonder if it's done. It's been updating me as it goes. It's been the model. Okay. So first of all, key assumptions. And then it claims it's put the assumptions in here. So this is really actually very cool. The net income, it's linked that up correctly. The depreciation is linked that up correctly. The deferred taxes. And that's impressive because these are all, the historical numbers are dead. Change in working capital, it is taken.
What's that? Times 0.2.
I11. Well, I'm wondering what it's doing here. Down here, what did it do? J111. What is one? J111. So this is, it took, J11. I'm sorry. J11 minus I11. It's taken the difference.
Taken a percentage revenue. It's taken 2% of revenue as the change in
as the change in working capital. I would still think though that logically, if revenue is growing, you'd expect that you need to invest more in working capital. So you'd expect that would be an outflow, right? That should be an outflow of cash because you're spending cash to keep up. You're needing more working capital. You're needing more inventory, more receivables. Whereas this is a positive number, which means that we're generating cash every year. Okay, whatever.
It's a weird way to go about it, but it gets to an answer, I guess.
It's got a CapEx figure. It's taken CapEx. It's taken a revenue. It's taken 6% of revenue as the CapEx assumption. Okay. I'm not now these it's hard entered in the long-term debt. It just typed in dead numbers. I would have loved to see change in the long-term debt from below. But this is amazing that we actually get to audit this model on the fly, right? Now, let's see here.
Well, I mean, even the fact that it's got the structure looking right puts it in the top bracket of what we've seen, because there's only been
100%.
Agent and I think Shortcut did a reasonable job to get the structure right, even if some of the logic wasn't there.
100%. So what do you think, Giles? The historical balance sheet balances, and you let about the future. Drum roll, please.
I don't think it has. No.
Uh-oh. Giles. Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
Giles,
Oh dear.
what's going on here? Yeah. I mean, it's only off by $37 million. It's really not a big deal, is it? Most people wouldn't care. Yeah, listen. So it is, again, I'd have to dissect this further. It is off to a nice start. It is, what is it done though, is it's told me the assumptions it has used. So it has used assumptions. It says it put the assumptions in rows 112 to 137.
Oh, is it just type?
Here.
Okay, but it hasn't linked them. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's so interesting. So what it did is it put the assumptions in on an assumption, but it's not using them anywhere, right? Like you can see here, it's not. So it entered 5%, but if I do a price dependent, it's not going anywhere, right? So it didn't use that assumption. Let's try one more thing and let's get to do some valuation. This is should I compliment it? Should I give it a compliment like it gave me one? This is great. However, can you remove the hard-coded values from the formulas and link to the assumption cells instead in rows, what did it say? 112 to 137. So let's ask it to do that. Let's ask it to replace and remove the hard-coded values that it put in and see if it can use these values. I like that it actually has growth. Right? I have no problem with this. I told it to make an assumption and it did for revenue growth, 5%, freight and warehousing growth. And it's actually described what it's doing. Like it knows that this is a growth rate. This is a growth rate. These are all growth rates. It's told me that the 21% is a tax rate. It's assuming that 10%. So again, this just not how deferred taxes would work. I get it. It made an assumption, but I would also hope that it would know how to make a reasonable assumption. Typically, you would not assume deferred taxes as a percentage of the cash tax and of the current tax. So it has done something. Let's see what it's doing here now. It's doing a lot of work here. Let's see.
But again, I just can't get out of my head the fact that it's like, if this was a junior analyst, you'd be saying like, hey, look, you've shown some really strong signs that, the good signs, you got a lot to work on. If it was a tool where I knew that the more time I invested, the more it learnt and remembered, I'd be invested in this process, but I'm not even sure we're there yet with these tools. I don't know that they remember everything. So it's kind of dead time if it doesn't get things right.
And you know what, while it's looking, so I don't know let's see if it's doing that. First of all, let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Look at that.
It is good.
So bang, it did it.
And kudos,
it
like it's one prompt. Like you literally
100%.
just have to say, hey, link to the assumptions, and it's done it. That's cool.
And by the way, I'm going to go into the formula just to double check it. I'm going to select the cell reference and press F5, enter. It'll take me right to that cell reference. Yeah, it's good. It's linked it up correctly. So I'm happy with that. The model is now fully dynamic, right? Let's see. Can you make the assumption values blue? Let's see if it can do that. Let's say I should have said blue font. Well, look at that. I didn't even have to. Fantastic. So now there are assumptions. That's model blue, which is perfect. So I wasn't even as clear as I would have liked, but it was. So this is good. Now, of course, we still have a situation where the balance sheet is not balanced. The balance sheet isn't balanced. Any ideas? So I'm going to try writing to it in a more, slang colloquial way. The balance sheet isn't balanced. Any ideas why not? Let's see if it can follow that, along. Obviously, prompt writing is important, but it seems to understand. Okay, let me check the balance sheet to see what's causing the imbalance. So I like that it understood my English.
I found the issue.
What's that? I found it. It found it. Found it quickly. I found it. The balance sheet is imbalanced because total assets. Oh, Giles, it's because the total assets doesn't equal the total liabilities.
Oh, this is my favorite tool.
That's why it doesn't balance, Giles, because the assets don't match the liabilities. The problem is that the cash position is going very negative, which is true. It's creating a mismatch. So what I suspect is happening here actually, and I didn't want to say, okay, so it's actually made a bunch of, it's
still changing. Okay.
Look what it's doing though. I knew this might be the case. So
negative revolver balance.
Giles, wow, Giles. Wow.
Oh
Look at
yeah,
that. It did.
so it did fix it, but I just spotted the revolver line. So if
Yeah.
this is the balance sheet,
Well, hang on.
the revolver's negative.
Well, so impressive. So impressive. Now, first of all, it's done something. I haven't gone through it. Now, look at that. It's getting the last laugh on us now. It's probably laughing to the bank at us. It's balanced. That's great. It has. I'd like to see what it did. It's got a revolver. Now it knows that it needs to have a revolver formula, which it did. But the revolver
Negative.
formula is negative. So that does.
Is it plugged? Is it just plugged?
Oh, Giles. Oh, Giles.
It's plugged.
It plugged the balance sheet. Giles.
This is a cheat. This is a cheater.
Giles. It took total assets minus everything else.
No,
It took the total assets minus everything
you
else.
can't have that, Elkar. That's not on.
No, it balanced it by it balanced the balance sheet
Classic
by plugging
plug.
it. And the funny thing is that it chose to do that on the revolver, which ended up making it negative because the assets are less than liabilities, of course. Now, I'm going to eyeball this to see. It does appear that the debt is going down. These numbers are reasonable to me, but if we look at the cash, change in cash is positive. So there shouldn't be a massive need for a revolver. Now, I'm not going to spend... Why don't we do this? Let's pause it. Let's pause it. And then I'm going to spend a minute trying to figure out why it's out of balance.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and show that
We'll
and
do
do
that.
some. Why don't we pause it now and I'll
Here we
spend a
go.
minute.
We're back. Ian, how's it done?
We're back. Well, this might be the most impressive learning. And I think this is a really important part for anyone to watch to see what's going on here. And this causes me concern about, modeling and the dangers of two things. The dangers of having AI build a model without, there's a lot to understand. And number two, the dangers of a human not understanding what is going on. So Giles and I, we spent literally, was it 8 or 9 or maybe 10 minutes going through it and figured out all the real reasons. If you recall, I know we laughed. We had a fun laugh at the fact that what it did. So of course the balance sheet's not balanced. Its balance sheet's not balanced. And what it did is to balance it, it stuck in a plug, a classic area, put in a plug. Basically, it took total assets minus everything else, and it ended up with a negative revolver. That's a disaster. There are some real meaningful errors, and I think it's important to see what these errors are and how it did not understand modeling, what a model means and the integration of a company's financial statements. So I'm going to do this very, very fast, working exactly off what it gave us and where we got it balanced. And so we noticed that there were a bunch of issues. We found them very, very quickly. One of the things we noticed was this. So we first of all noticed that it had some links correctly, right? The on the balance sheet, cash was linking to cash on the balance sheet. That's great. The receivables, it made an assumption that the receivables were just going to grow. The receivables was going to be a percentage of revenue. Okay, not standard to do it this way, but not the end of the world. It took revenue and it simply said that revenue it said that it would take revenue and it used an assumption here of 12%. It said 12% of revenue would be outstanding as AR. I'm okay with that. And it did the same thing for inventory, prepaids. That's how it arrived at the working capital. Now, if you look closely here, the receivables went down. The inventory went down. The prepaids went down a lot. When assets go down, cash goes up. So just by these three going down, that should mean that there's a lot of cash coming in. Let's go check the change in working capital on the cash flow statement. Well, to our unfortunate surprise, it didn't appreciate or recognize that there's a connection. It didn't understand that there needs to be connectivity between the balance sheet items and the cash flow statement. So it literally calculated the change in working capital as the difference in revenues multiplied by a percentage. It took the difference in revenue multiplied by 2%, but it's not connected. So what I did when we were offline is now in real life, I would tell people never, ever, ever to do what I just did. Never do this. In real life, you should build a working capital schedule, line by line, nicely organized, and link them in. In fact, I should just show it here, right? This is the completed Henderson model. A real good model should have a nice working capital schedule, with all of the lines laid out, very clean for receivables, inventory, payables, linked into the balance sheet. And the change goes into the cash flow statement. Well, what I did here just to get it working is I did all of that work in one cell. So I just took the difference in the receivables, the difference in the inventory, the difference in the prepaids, the difference in the other lines, and I'm going to copy that in here. So really the change in working capital should have been 17 million in the first year, which, right, that's what the answer should be, because the assets went down a lot. So there should, based on what it did to the assets, that should lead to a cash infusion. So that was one big mistake. It did not understand that there needed to be connectivity between them. So I put the proper formula in and I copied it over. Okay, fine. This was good. It also calculated the CapEx. It's got CapEx. It's also taking revenues multiplied by 4%. Okay, to get it CapEx. It has another row here called other, which we're going to come back to. It's showing some other cash inflow of 2 million and then a 6.6 negative 6.6 in investing activities. Fine. In the financing activities, it's got some, this is a formula, but this, whatever it's doing, it's simplistic, but let's see where the real problems are now on the balance sheet. Well, on the balance sheet, what we learned was that the way it did PP&E is it took last year's fixed assets and it minused the depreciation, right? J20 is the depreciation. It did that correctly. But what any good modeler would know is that PP&E has to be the previous year minus the depreciation, but add the CapEx. You also have to add the CapEx, and it didn't do that. It did not realize that every line on the cash flow statement has to hit the balance sheet somewhere. So let's pick that up. So that was a big one. So of course, the PP&E dropped by the depreciation, but increased by the amount of the new spend, the CapEx. So it, again, worrisome that it knew to have a CapEx line, but didn't realize the connectivity of where that needs to go on a balance sheet. And now, since we saw this row as well, it's going to make me wonder, one of the biggest all-time mistakes people make on balance sheets is they don't realize that every line on the cash flow statement has to hit the balance sheet. And the change in every line on the balance sheet has to hit the cash flow statement somewhere. So there's another row here called other. And let's see, it's not going anywhere. It's only going into the total. This 2 million is not going anywhere. It didn't pick that up. So let's go put it somewhere. Let's just stick it into PP&E. If there's a cash infusion coming in investing activities, it means an asset somewhere was sold off and they got some cash. So I have to reduce one of the asset lines. I'm going to just reduce PP&E by that equivalent value on the cash flow statement. If cash is coming in, it means that there was an asset somewhere that was being decreased. Okay. And then I've got the other, which is now picking up in my working capital. Let's just see what is now. Now, instead of being off by 31, I'm off by 7. I know that this is another one, another connectivity issue, right, Giles? We saw the deferred taxes. It calculated the deferred tax liability as just the total assets. This is unusual. You'd never do this. It took total assets multiplied by 3%. That's not how you calculate deferred taxes on a balance sheet. On a balance sheet, it should just be the prior year plus the deferred tax expense, the new deferred tax expense on the income statement. But you need to know that. A good modeler needs to know that. So I linked that in and copied that over. And now there is one more thing here.
Retained earnings.
I
think there was something in retained earnings, wasn't it?
Exactly. Remember what it did? It took the prior year. It added in net income. And it subtracted the dividend. In theory, correct. Right? Remember that? Yeah. But it subtracted a dividend that's a negative number. This is correct. On a cash flow statement, the dividend would be negative, but you can't then subtract it in your retained earnings. By minusing this dividend, we're adding it because it minused a minus. So it made the retained earnings go up when in fact the retained earnings needs to go down. The formula needed to add the net income, but add the dividend because it's already negative. And if we do that and click enter, now I don't believe this is important. I do not believe that the AI would have been able to yet, maybe in the future, maybe down the road. But, I really believe that what I just did, a good modeler needs to be able to check, audit, understand, and be able to really quickly identify what's going on and not simply rely on the AI. So I'm really pleased. Why don't we end it here then, Giles? I'm very pleased with what it did. I'm very pleased that it was able to get me a start But as I've been saying, it's got to be my partner on my shoulder that I can bounce things around, not send me down, rabbit holes. And I would hope that it understands the system and the integration. But anyway, we're off. It is a good start, but it needed a lot of us to kind of get it working. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that from my side to wrap up, we spent 10 minutes, the two of us, very experienced at looking at 3-statement models. We found it, but we know what we're looking for. And again, I'm in the same place I've been for a long time with this, which is that I love where this is going. I think the future is definitely that these tools will make our lives so much easier, but do not listen to the hype saying like it builds financial models. It is building something that looks like a financial model, and you have to know how to troubleshoot it. Otherwise, you're going to get in a world of trouble. That's probably what I would say.
Two things for me. Number one, right now, it's getting a good start. It's not good enough. The model that it built is what a brand new, modeler would do. It made some classic modeling
Absolutely.
mistakes. Will it be able to fix those over time? Yeah, I believe it will. It'll be able to learn. But I also strongly believe that your boss, your client, your colleagues are still going to say, Giles, what did you do? How did you assume CapEx? And what did you do? And how did you get the deferred tax working? And why are we doing this and that? And even if it is at the point where I think it's actually going to be a little while until it really understands all the integrations and be able to beautifully forecast. But even then, right, Giles, you're still going to have to understand what it's doing perfectly. And if it's making a mistake, like a plug, be able to troubleshoot. So anyway, fascinating to see that. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, it's still like Elkar, great job. It's a great tool. We're not just sat here being negative about this left, right, and center. Obviously, there's gaps, but it's still amazing what a tool like this can do. And I feel like we're saying that with all of them at the moment, which is interesting. So, sorry, Paul, we didn't do anything too dodgy. None of us swore. I think we've held up the reputation of your podcast.
We even had fun without him, didn't we?
Yeah, we can't tell him we had too much fun. He won't come back.
I hope no. Do not tell him we had more fun than if he was here. I mean, we had him think
just slightly less fun than if he would have been here, but we still had lots of fun. That's what we'll say.
But you were rolling over a couple times with the with things like the plug. But anyway, it'll be better when he's back. In the meantime, that was a great episode, a lot of fun, and really hopefully interesting to see where this is headed.
Yep. All right. Thanks everyone for watching, listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.